All right. Morning, everybody. I hope you can all hear me okay. Looks like mic check worked out fine. So, before we get too involved in this, I want to go over what this stream is and is not going to be. This is going to be going over character creation and building a character for an upcoming convention. This will not go that far in depth into core gameplay mechanics. I will mention them, I will give a brief overview of them, but there will be more videos covering different concepts more in depth. Unfortunately, there's a lot to cover. This is a new system. It is completely standalone from any other game. So there's just too much to cover in a short video like this. And I say short, this is probably going to be about an hour long. So when we're doing character creation, the very first thing you need to do is come up with your character concept, which is going to be this right here. Now, a character concept, the easiest way to think about it is it's the elevator pitch for your character, right? It's a sentence or two. What at its very core is your character. Sample concepts are big dumb fighter, right? He's the Gronk of the party. He's big, he's strong, he beats things with a rock. You don't put him in charge of anything important because he's not the brains dude. For this particular character, this is the leader. So this character is going to be the one who kind of takes charge. They may not be the one actually defeating the enemies, but they're going to make the team better as a whole. So once you have your concept, we're going to scroll down to page 2 and look at our 5 stats. Ferocity, agility, endurance, mental acuity, and resolve. Now these 5 are known as your attributes. These are the basic mechanics of your body. So ferocity, the important thing to know about ferocity is not strength, right? Ferocity is not how hard you punch things. Ferocity is your willingness to hurt the other person, to put your plans into action, to move and fight and not hold back. So, agility is your reflexes, your dexterity, your hand-eye coordination, your speed. All of that is a measure of your agility. Endurance is your physical toughness, how hard you can get hit, whether that's from a fist or the common cold. That's endurance in a nutshell. Mental acuity. Mental acuity is your intelligence. It's your brain power. It's your ability to figure things out. Resolve is basically your mental endurance. It's your ability to push through uncomfortable topics. It's your ability to see things through to the end. So, ferocity controls in tactics mode, basically normal mode. Ferocity controls your attack whenever you make an attack check. It controls your actions per turn. You have a minimum of 2, and we'll go over that more in a minute. And if you're using a melee weapon, it controls your damage. Now that sounds like a lot, but keep in mind there are 3 modes, and ferocity only controls all of that for one of them. So what we're going to do, we have 10 points, as I said, so we're going to start with 2 in everything to give us 10 points. We're then going to subtract and add to make our character more how we see them. So, again, our character concept, and again, real quick, at this stage of character creation, you can only go up to a 3 in any attribute. Normally, the max is 5. We'll go over that in a minute. For this step of character creation, you have to stay at 3 or lower. So, our leader, I'm envisioning him as this kind of military veteran. Before they became enhanced, they were in the military for their country. So, we're going to want to increase their mental acuity because they're the one making decisions, they're the ones figuring things out. And we're going to want to include their ferocity. They're more ferocious than normal, they're more willing to hurt the other person. We increase that by 2 points, so we got to lose 2 points somewhere else. Attributes run on a scale of 1 to 5. You can't go below a 1. So, for now, we're going to drop their endurance. They tend to get sicker a little easier. They just don't take care of their physical needs as much as they should because they're too busy spreading themselves, or concentrating, not spreading themselves. They're concentrating on their other areas of their body. And then agility for now. Let's also lower that to 1. This is somebody who, when they work out, they tend to do more weightlifting than they do long distance running. So we've got their attributes picked. Now, if attributes are what your body can do, the next thing up is skills. Skills are what you can do with your body. Skills run the gauntlet from general athletics, being able to craft or make things. Demolitions means working with high explosives. Sleight of hand, pickpocketing, stealing, as well as small magical tricks. Setting up security perimeters, all sorts of things. So, for skills, and again, before we get into it, you heard me say the word check before. So any check is basically a task. It's you doing something. If I want to do something, I make a check. If I want to shoot at my enemy, I make a check. I roll 2d12, two 12-sided die. I add my appropriate attribute, which would be ferocity, and then my appropriate skill. If I'm shooting at somebody with a gun, it would be my firearm skill. Now, if you look over here on the left and right, left you'll see skills, right you'll see focuses. On the left, certain skills, craft, firearms, knowledge, and melee, have an asterisk next to them. And then you'll see correspondingly craft focus, firearm focus, knowledge focus, melee focus. Those 4 skills are known as hub skills. Rather than having to put all of your points into craft armor, and then put all your points again into craft chemical, and then all your points again into craft creative, you put points into craft, and then the first time you put 1 rank into craft, you choose a focus. So my character starts out, for example, with craft armor. Later on as I'm playing, I decide they're getting more into the pharmaceutical side of things, and I will buy the focus for pharmaceutical. Whenever they make a craft pharmaceutical check or a craft armor check, they both use that same craft score. So, you still have to buy the focuses separately, but you use the total ranks and skill bonuses associated with that hub skill. Any questions on this, please let me know. I'm also, if anyone hops into the thread, or into the stream, I am switching between both the stream and document, so if you ask a question, I will answer as quickly as I can. I may miss it for a second. I apologize. But for skills, you have 15 points. Skills range from 0, meaning you're inept, you don't have any skill in it, you've never trained in it, to 7. 7 is pinnacle. Basically, 1, you're a rookie, right? You're a flashlight holder. You've seen a thing or two about how to put on a performance, but you're not doing it yourself. At 3, you're competent. I'm a day-to-day singer, right? I'm not a worldwide known singer, but I can put on a song and dance. At four ranks, you become what's known as a specialist. You are not only good at the day-to-day things, you've started to specialize a bit, hence the name. So you're no longer just a singer, you specialize in old school Johnny Cash style classic rock and country, things like that. 7 is Pinnacle. Basically, at Pinnacle, you enter the world of the Bach or the Beethoven of your time, right? Not everyone may agree that you at your 7 ranks in performance are the defining singer of your generation, but you're on everybody's list. Everyone knows, hey, this person may not be the Beethoven, but we at least got to bring them up in the conversation legitimately. So, again, you have 15 points. At this point, again, you cannot have more than 3 ranks in any given skill. That will change further on in the process. But we have the easiest way to do it, at least for me, has always been average it out and then change based on the character idea. So, 15, max of 3, means I can have 5 skills at 3 ranks. So, again, this is our leader. They're the person in charge. So we're going to go ahead and put 3 ranks into leadership. We're going to put 3 ranks into firearms. Those are their 2 primary things. Let's go ahead and do 3 ranks in persuasion, because they've got to get people to follow them. We're going to do 3 ranks in knowledge. And it would help if I clicked that correctly. And then for our last 3 ranks, we're going to go ahead and put that in empathy. So, as of right now, we have a character that is fairly ferocious. They're fairly smart. They don't have a lot of agility, right? They're a little clumsy. They're a little sickly. And they've got okay resolve. They're good at persuading people to do what they want. They're good at figuring out that something's not right, something's not going on correctly with their people. They're competent at firearms. They're competent at figuring stuff out, their knowledge, and they're a competent leader. I could split this out a little bit more, but for now we're going to move on. I kind of like that stat spread. So, after skills, we choose their enhancement. Now, without going too far into it, your enhancement is what makes you more than a normal human. When you do your enhancement, you're going to get a +1 bonus to one of your attributes based on which enhancement you took. There are 5 enhancements. We'll go over them more in a second, but you gain a +1 bonus to an attribute. This can raise it above 3, so that cap no longer exists. The max cap for 4 of your attributes is 5. That is human maximum. The normal Olympic level athlete has a 5 in one of those attributes. Whatever attribute you pick as your enhanced attribute goes up to 6. You are superhuman in that regard. So, of our 5 enhancements, your options are sight, which is exactly what it sounds like. Your sight improves to superhuman levels. Mind, touch, your sense of touch, your kinetisense, that kind of thing. Your hearing, and your soul. So, for this character, again, we know they're a leader. we know they are a soldier. So the two that I'm looking at for them is either sight, which increases their ferocity, and then they can choose for their merits. You get one merit and one drawback. One little trick that you can do that the average person can't, and then one drawback. To put it bluntly, it's a area where you suck, where you have a flaw or some other impairment that the average person doesn't. So with sight, your options are for merits, arcane sight, the ability to see magic, Hawkeye, the ability to basically zoom in your eyesight to a limited degree. You can see a little further, and when you're close enough to the target, because you can see better, you can hit them a little more accurately. And then eye for detail, which gives you a bonus when crafting. And then the other one I'm looking at is mind. That's a bonus to mental acuity. Your merits are battle analysis, which allows you on the first turn in combat to give an ally a bonus to one check equal to your mental acuity. You're really good at making those kind of real quick, oh crap, rapid fire plans. Tracking. Everybody here has probably seen the old Princess Bride movie. He can track a falcon on a cloudless day. He can find you, right? That's tracking. And then ritualistic mind. Rituals, I'm not going to go too far in depth into, but they're basically one use magic potions. If you've played games like D&D or Pathfinder, rituals take the effect or take the place of potions. You prepare the ritual ahead of time, and then you use the effect within 24 hours. Sorry, cat. All right, so of those two, for this character, while they are a soldier, their defining characteristic is going to be their leadership skill, their ability to make plans. So I'm going to go with their enhancement, mind. That changes or gives them a +1 bonus to mental acuity. So their mental acuity changes from 3 to 4. Of the merits, I'm going to choose battle analysis. And then for their drawbacks, I have a choice between rigid thinking or mind over matter. Rigid thinking is that stereotypical, oh, look, that person is really smart but doesn't know how to relate to the common person. They have trouble with empathy. That's ritualistic, or I'm sorry, that is rigid thinking. So think your BBC Sherlock Holmes, right? I don't care about what the average person is thinking because I'm smarter than them. And then mind over matter. We've all heard that saying, push through, tough it out, mind over matter, blah, blah, blah. With this drawback, you take that to an unhealthy degree. So, pain exists for a reason, right? Pain is your body's way of saying, hey, that hurts, stop it. You push through even when you shouldn't. Because of this, your wound penalties, because you're just not paying attention to your body, your wound penalties are more severe. So, for this character, I like that one. We're going to go with mind over matter because so far it fits that idea of the smart person, the ferocious person, but they're missing things, right? They're making simple mistakes. They're not paying attention to their body. So I am putting this in red as opposed to the other attributes in blue, just to make it a little more visible. so that we can remember. And I'll do that with some other abilities as well. If you're following along on your own character sheet, don't think you need to do that. No one's going to yell because you didn't use the right color. But, so, we've got our merit, battle analysis, we've got our drawback, which is mind over matter. We put our +1 in mental acuity, so we are good with enhancements. Let me look at chat real quick. All right, nothing. So, we are now going to move on. Culture and occupation. To put it very simply, culture is the way you were raised. Occupation is what you currently do for a living. These are both chosen from the same list. You can choose the same culture and occupation. So you can be an academic raised by academics. You can be a doctor raised by doctors. You can also choose some that don't at first glance make sense. For example, you can choose the academic culture. So I was raised by, professors and teachers. But then for occupation, choose thief. Now that doesn't make a lot of sense unless you're making Indiana Jones. Always remember, culture and occupation are there not just to give you mechanical bonuses, but to further develop and describe your character, your backstory, who and what your character is. A military member who grew up on a farm is going to be different from one who grew up around doctors, or one who grew up around MMA prize fighters, etc. So, for this character, our leader grew up from humble beginnings, looking over the different cultures and occupations. We are going to look at factory worker as their culture. So they grew up in that real blue collar, probably in a Rust Belt town for my American audiences. And then their occupation, they are currently in the military. And because that's going to mess with me, let's go ahead and change that back to blue. So, what does that mean? What did choosing factory worker and military member actually do mechanically? So, when you choose your culture first, because there is a slight difference, when you choose your culture, in this case factory worker, you gain 1 rank in several skills. For factory worker, these are craft, technology, vehicle operation, etc. You get 1 merit and a salary bonus increase. Salary I will go over a little bit more when we get to calculated stats. But the important thing to remember, if you chose the same culture and occupation, so say they were a factory worker and became a factory worker, you can choose the same skills, but you cannot choose the same merits. So, for factory worker, we're going to choose a +1 bonus to knowledge. And again, here, that cap of 3 that I mentioned before for skills is now raised. We're going to raise knowledge. We're going to go ahead and put a point into intimidate. They had kind of a rough upbringing. And then we're going to go ahead and give them a rank in empathy. Because they had that rough upbringing, they're able to identify and empathize with that a little bit more. So, we now look at our different merits. For factory worker, you select one of the following 3. So the first one we can choose is aggressive banter. aggressive banter. Now, before I say what it requires, here's the big difference mechanically between culture and occupation. With culture, that's something you grew up around, right? That's something you've been around for years. Your merit, you do not need to meet the prerequisites for it. With occupation, you do. So, for our merits, our first choice is aggressive banter. It requires Resolve 3 and Intimidation 2. Our Intimidate right now is only 1, and our Resolve is only 2. So I'm going to make a note right here. If we were going after this merit for our occupation, we would need to remember to get +1 Resolve and +1 Intimidation before the end of character creation. We don't have to meet that right now for when we do our military, our occupation, but by the end of character creation, we will have some more freebie points to spend, and we want to make sure to get that. So, aggressive banter again, Resolve 3, Intimidation 2. Basically, you've spent years of both good-natured and, not so good-natured ribbing of other people and coworkers. You know just the right words to say to rile someone up, to really infuriate them and get them to focus on you. Aggressive banter is basically your taunt skill. They have to, or taunt ability, excuse me. They have to be able to speak the language you're speaking, but you can mess with them, infuriate them, and then they have to focus at least one action per turn, either moving towards you, attacking you, or using an ability that includes you. You would make a Resolve plus Intimidate check. So again, even though we don't have to meet the prerequisites, the 3 Resolve and 2 Intimidate, if we take this ability, we're going to want to pump Intimidate and Resolve. And then the target makes a Resolve plus Empathy skill check. If we beat them, they have to again spend at least one action on their next turn, targeting me, moving towards me, etc. Basically, it's a good bit of battlefield control. I'm determining what you do to a limited degree. Our other two options are Master Crafter. So Master Crafter is exactly what it sounds like. It requires Mental Acuity 3, which we have that, and it requires Craft 3, which we don't. So you have more than just an innate talent at crafting. You've spent years becoming better. Whenever you're using the crafting downtime action to make items, reduce the wealth cost needed by 1. So basically, you're able to put things together a little bit cheaper, a little bit more efficiently than others. It's a small bonus, but that's what merits tend to be. Merits very rarely are I win buttons. They're this merit makes me better at what I want to do. Okay, so our last choice is Worker's Instinct. So Worker's Instinct is one of our navigation mode merits. Basically, because you've spent years with your parents, father-daughter workday, mother-son workday, bring your kid to workday, whatever you want to call it, you've grown up around the kind of inherent dangers of a factory life, seeing your parents do it, seeing it as a kid, etc. You've gotten really good at spotting dangers. So this requires Resolve 3, which again we don't have, and survival 2, which we don't have. While in navigation mode, if you come across a hazard, your party gets a +2 bonus to 1 check in the first round of dealing with that hazard. That's, again, a small bonus, but a good one. That also fits into the idea of our... Oh, excuse me, I apologize. But that fits into the idea of our leader who directs other people to do what's up. So, of the 3, we are actually going to be choosing aggressive banter. I just like the idea, though again, there is no wrong option. If it fits your idea of your character, pick it. So we're going to put aggressive banter there. And that is our culture picked. So now for our occupation. Oh, real quick. Our salary bonus I will go over more later, like I said. But we got for factory worker a +2 salary bonus increase. We'll make a note of that there for now. Now, military. They also have a salary bonus increase of +2. So while we're right here, let's just go ahead and change that. We're going to look at the merits first. Here's why I'm doing that. Remember, for occupation, you must meet the prerequisites. So rather than spending our freebie points later in the character creation process on getting our skills up to snuff, let's look at our merits first, and then we know, because I've got 3 more points I can distribute, we'll know, okay, where do I want to distribute those? So, for the military, your options are directed fire, patrol pointman, and defensive minded. So, directed fire first requires mental acuity 3. We have that. And leadership 4. Our leadership is 3. We're right there. So, when activating your leadership ability, you may spend an additional action. Usually, your leadership action is 1 action, and it gives you a bonus, and your allies a bonus to maneuvers. When activating your leadership ability, you may spend an additional action. If you do so, your allies, but not you, do 1 additional damage with all attacks or maneuvers that already do damage. This lasts for the duration of your leadership ability. So again, this very much fits into the idea of, I'm not going to stop you, but I've got a squad, and they're going to stop you, and I'm going to make them better at doing it. So, that is definitely one to look at. I love the idea of that for this character. Our next options are Patrol Pointman. So Patrol Pointman requires Mental Acuity 3. We already know we have that. And then Perception 4. Right now we have no ranks in Perception. So if we went that route, we would have a lot of points we have to spend. When assigned to the lookout role in navigation mode, gain a +1 bonus to your check. Okay, that's interesting, but that doesn't really fit this character. They're typically not the lookout, they're the one directing everybody. So, we're going to set that one to the side, and then the last option is defensive minded. That requires mental acuity 3, which we have, craft 3, and the structural craft focus. We don't have either of those two. So with this, whenever you're assigned to the designer role on a project, you may add +3 to the total cost of the project. Basically, when you're helping to build a building, you deliberately source better supplies. If you do, all defenders firing ranged weapons from the structure gain a +1 bonus to the attack rolls. So this is very good when you get to the settlement building portion of the game, of helping to keep your settlement safe. That's an okay idea for this character. However, because of the way we've built them so far, it would require a lot of investment to make it worth it. So instead, we're going to pick up the first one we talked about, which was directed fire. For skills, we already meet all of our prerequisites, so we don't have to worry about any of that. Instead, we're going to put points into firearms, raising that to 4. We're going to put another point into intimidate, and we're going to put 1 point into melee. The character is not going to be running up into combat 99% of the time, but they know how to use a small blade, a knife, something like that to defend themselves. So, after we've got our culture and occupation picked, all enhanced at character creation join one of 8 organizations. These 8 organizations have taken a great interest in both the tears in general, what they can use to, or what they can gain from the tears, and also the enhanced. So there are 8 organizations that will be launching with the game. These 8 organizations, and a rough base level description of each of them. So, the first one is the Ardor of the White Eye. The Ardor of the White Eye is basically the magical Illuminati. The families, capital F, are the ones that always controlled magic in the Shattered World prior to the Tear opening. The Ardor of the White Eye is a collection of the strongest of them. While you as an enhanced do not have access to magic as they understand it, they still view you as useful. Whether that's as someone that can go through these tears and get them things, or as a science experiment, or probably both, they still have a use for you. And as the movers and shakers in the world, they're the kind of people you want to have a use for you. At least that's how many of their enhanced members view it. So, the next one is the Keepers of the Garden. The Keepers of the Garden started as a religious organization. It began to accept members of all religious organizations. Basically, their premise is whatever you call the being, God commanded us to be keepers of the garden, right? To look after the natural world. That is our goal. They are conservationists, they are zookeepers, they are biomedical researchers. They're the ones figuring out how the natural world works and protecting people that way. So, Starlight Networks. It's Amazon. It's Amazon, it's Walmart, it's insert whatever capitalist corporation you want. That's Starlight Networks. They very much, we get you what you want and what you need, And if we have to exploit some things, I don't know what you're talking about. I would never do that. That would be wrong. So, Supernatural Hunters Incorporated, they are basically what if the idea overkill is overrated, put on boots and a hat. The Supernatural Hunters Incorporated, the company formed back in the early 1800s, and they hunted the supernatural, hence the name. Be it rogue wizards, rogue witches from the different families, be it dragons, whatever the job is, they can hunt it. When the tears began opening 5 years ago, they simply shifted their focus. Um, a member of the supernatural hunters, whereas others tend to use political connections or financial connections, the hunters tend to use bullets, simply put. So, the morning after, one of the important things about the Shattered World, if you've read a lot of urban fantasy, there's, be it the old, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer show, be it True Blood, be it the Dresden Files, there's always that disconnect between the quote unquote normal world and technology and electricity and whatever, and the magical world, and the two don't mix well. In the Shattered World, magic and tech have always been around. They've kind of co-evolved together. Everything is magi tech, basically. There is no, well, this is a computer and it doesn't have any bit of arcane. No, everything has just a little bit of arcane power in it. So, the morning after organization started, when somebody realized that not only were poltergeists and ghosts and zombies and wraithful spirits on the rise, they believed it was due to technology. When someone died without being properly mourned, hence the name, that person was more likely to rise again. So the morning after are basically professional exorcists with some skill in shotguns. But they work a lot of pro bono cases. Power wise, they're one of the newer organizations. They don't quite have all of the connections that some of the more established organizations do, but they're much more well regarded by the common person. And let me check chat real quick. All right, nothing. Again, if you have a question you're watching, please don't hesitate to ask. I will answer as quickly as I can. So back in the organizations, we went over the morning after. The Safe Haven Project. The Safe Haven Project is basically a UN project, a UN organization, United Nations, that's realized that our world has spent centuries in a protracted Cold War, and we have come close to the brink of utter annihilation time and time and time again. And as long as humanity is going to keep being humanity, we're going to keep coming closer and closer until one day we're not going to be closer. We're going to annihilate ourselves. And the best way to prevent that is to ensure that there are humans somewhere other than Earth. With these tears opening up leading to pocket dimensions, that seemed like the perfect answer. So the UN, the Safe Haven Project, is dedicated towards that idea of establishing a colony, a safe haven, hence the name, for humanity in case of the unthinkable. So, two organizations left. The Necessary. So, the Necessary, currently, modern day Necessary, they are the protest organizations, we own food banks and operate food banks, we help people job hunt, we provide housing for the homeless. Think of the Necessary as a mix of like Habitat for Humanity mixed with the Food Bank of America, mixed with the Red Cross. That is the public face of the necessary today. In the past, they started as, not to put too fine a point on it, but a terrorist organization. Back when Britain, the United Kingdom, was beginning to move people to Australia, move criminals, the necessary started there, basically throwing their hands up about the whole families controlling magic thing and stating that no, as long as we let these select powerful groups of people dictate what magic is and who can have magic and how magic works, they're going to control the world and we're never going to be free. Now, some say the necessary still engage in those acts. The necessary say they don't. Which is true? You'll find out when the book releases. I can't spoil everything, guys. Come on. So, the last one is the Vae Victis. Now, the Vae Victis, yes, that does mean they're the most influenced by. It's very much a toss-up between them and Starlight Networks. Because Starlight Networks, if Family A says I can no longer get this ritual component that people want from their territory, I'm pretty affected. So it's pretty much a toss-up between the Safe Haven and the Starlight Networks. But let me go back. All right, I haven't missed any other questions. Thank you. Good question. Vae Victis. So when the tears opened 5 years ago, people became enhanced. They were cut off from magic and began developing these, what we call destiny abilities, that I'll go over more in a little bit. So, the Vae Victis saw this happening as a sign. The Vae Victis is very much a religious organization where they themselves are the center of their worship. The Vae Victis believe wholeheartedly that they are on the cusp of becoming deities, be it full capital G gods, be it little g demigods. They are on the path of ascension by being enhanced. So, when you choose your organization, you get a bonus or a +1 bonus to a chosen attribute based on the organization. You gain 1 skill point to any skill, or to a chosen skill. And then, just like with the enhancement, you pick 1 of 3 merits. So, for our military leader, we're going to go with the Supernatural Hunters Incorporated. Their bonus attribute is ferocity. So we're going to raise that from a 3 to a 4. Keep in mind, ferocity cap for our leader is 5. Their mental acuity cap is 6. Their bonus skill is firearms. So we're going to raise that to a 5. And then merits. We can choose between no place to hide, advanced weaponry, and supernatural slayer. So, advanced weaponry, we'll do that first because it's alphabetical. Requires ferocity 4, which we now meet, and requires firearms 3, which we meet, but it requires the exotic firearms focus. We haven't chosen our focus yet, so we may or may not meet this one. In fact, we'll do that in a bit. But training with Supernatural Hunters Incorporated has exposed you to advanced weaponry in their use. When using exotic firearms or demolitions, We don't have any ranks in demolitions. You increase the affected area by 1. Most exotic weapons and all demolitions don't just target a person, right? One individual. They target an area. So that makes your area of effect a little bigger. In addition, everyone within the affected area, friend or foe, takes a -1 penalty to the opposed check to avoid damage. So when using demolitions or when using exotic firearms like a flamethrower, you affect a slightly wider area, and it's harder to avoid you when you're attacking them. That's certainly solid. We can definitely look at that. The next one up is No Place to Hide. Requires Ferocity 3 and Leadership 4. So again, we'll have to increase our leadership by 1 if we want this. But once per week, so this is an ability that you can't use that often, but once per week, the company allows you access to a dedicated mortar team for the day who bombard the area. All enemies in the area for the next 2 days have half their max stamina. There are different mortars that you can also get that do different effects but cost money to do, or cost salary to do. So No Place to Hide is mostly when used in exploration mode. We know we're going to be in this area, so let's soften it up a little bit. And then the final option is Supernatural Slayer. So Supernatural Slayer requires Ferocity 3, which we have, Knowledge 3, which we have, and then the Occult focus. We haven't picked our focuses yet. So, training with SHI, Supernatural Hunters Incorporated, has prepared you to deal with supernatural creatures. You gain a +1 bonus to all attack and damage rolls against creatures with the supernatural subtype. So again, this helps narrow your focus a bit more. This is what you're used to hunting. Both of these are solid. For this character, I am going to go with Supernatural Slayer. So, we've got that picked out. Our next step... Okay, no new chats. Our next step is choosing destinies. Now, destinies basically take the place of spells in this system. There are, at launch, going to be 12 destinies, each one based off one of the major arcana, or based off one of the major arcana in the tarot. So, the Tower, Strength, the Fool, etc. More will come out with other books. Right now, you will pick one Tier 1 destiny from any one of the destinies. I'm not going to go that far in depth. Again, another video will cover them. But from what we know of our character, I am going to choose Smite. So this is from the Judgment Destiny. So we'll go up here. Under our destinies on page 1, we're just going to make a note. Judgment Destiny. Now, specifically, we're going to put Judgment 1 because we have one ability from the Judgment Destiny. Now, this is very important. As I've mentioned before, the Shattered World is a classless system. You do not make a level 1 rogue, a level 5 fighter, or any of that. You put your experience points directly into your abilities and destinies. If you want to put your destiny points into a different destiny than what you chose at the beginning, have at. You absolutely can. In order to get more powerful destiny abilities, to get a tier 2 destiny, you have to have 2 tier 1 destiny abilities in that destiny. So if I want a tier 2 judgment ability, I need to have 2 tier 1 judgment abilities. If I want a tier 3, I need 2 tier 2, etc. So it very much is that game, right, where you have to decide, do I want to rush and put all my points into this Judgment Destiny to get to the Tier 4, which is really good? Or do I want to diversify a bit? And yeah, I won't have access to the highest tier quite yet, but I'll have more versatility. But that's a question for later. This is character creation. So, we're going to do a different color. We're going to do green. And again, our destiny ability was Smite. So Smite, or more fully, Smite the Unbelievers, is a stance. This is a stance you spend an action to enter it, and then you get a bonus while you're in that stance. This stance lasts a number of rounds equal to your ranks and knowledge. While in this stance, all weapon attacks you make gain +1 damage per milestone per tier of Judgment unlocked. So if I have at least one Tier 3 Judgment ability unlocked, this stance, all weapon attacks I make gain +3 damage. So right now, while we're in that stance, it'll do, our weapon attacks will do +1 damage. After we choose destinies, typically we would choose drawbacks. As I said before, drawbacks are areas where your character is lacking. Because we've already been on here for an hour, I am going to skip drawbacks for now. That, and again, these are for character, or these are for a convention. I'm not going to go insane and make a super intricate character when these are designed for new players to test out the system. But we're going to skip drawbacks. Spending XP. At this point, we have 20 XP to spend. If we had purchased drawbacks, we would have more to spend. But we're not going to do that. So, merits cost 3 XP. Additional focuses cost 5 XP. We're not going to worry about rituals right now, because again, these are entry-level characters. Organization rank, I did forget to say that earlier. I apologize. We chose Supernatural Hunters Incorporated. You automatically start as rank 1. And then getting up in rank gives you bonuses, yes, but it takes both XP and wealth to do so. Because you're taking on additional training, you're taking on additional responsibilities, etc. in your organization. But do we have anything we need to increase? Well, we know with aggressive banter we want to increase our resolve and intimidation. We don't have to because we didn't meet the prerequisites, but if that's an ability we want to use, we might as well increase the things it uses to do its job. And then we do need to increase our leadership by 1. So to increase a skill, it costs 2 times the new number of ranks gained. So to gain the 4th rank in leadership, it would be 2 times 4, or 8 points. We have 20 XP. We're going to go from 3 to 4 with leadership. And now we have 12 XP left. So, resolve is an attribute. Attributes cost 4 XP. So we can raise our resolve by 1, put that at 3, and that drops us to 8 XP. And then intimidate. So the 3rd rank will cost 6. Which drops us down to 2. With our 2 XP, we can put 1 point into basically any skill we don't already have a point in. And let's go ahead. They started to learn a little bit of athletics. They're not great at it. That's not their focus. But they are out there training with their people, so it makes sense. So that is spending XP done. Now we get to the calculated stats, which is this section right here. So, stamina. Your base stamina is equal to first your endurance, and then look at what destinies you have picked up. We picked up 1 judgment destiny, 1 judgment ability. Each destiny gives stamina per ability you took in that destiny, and each destiny has their own stamina. So for us, for judgment, that stamina number is 3. So our stamina goes up by 3, so our max stamina is 4. Now before we continue, I want to talk about stamina and wounds. Stamina, again, if you're familiar with most common tabletop RPGs, your Dungeons and Dragons, etc., stamina is hit points. Stamina represents the typical day-to-day aches and bumps and bruises you're going to get in an active lifestyle. Wounds is actual damage. So as you take hits, your stamina is going to deplete. Once your stamina would reach 0, it stops at 0. So if I'm at 1 hit point, or 1 stamina, excuse me, and I take 3 damage, I go to 0, and then the remaining 2 damage fills in your bruised and impaired. As you take damage, you get closer and closer to death. Right? I don't think that needs to be explained. But bruised is, yeah, I've got some deep tissue bruising, my arm hurts, I can power through it. Impaired is, yeah, I got punched in the ribs, I'm having some difficulty breathing, but I'm fine, it's no big deal. Minor wound, I've got a sprained ankle, I've got a sprained wrist, I may have like a broken finger. It's annoying, it's frustrating, it's going to take some time to heal, but it's not a super impediment yet. Major wound, I've got broken ribs, I've got a broken leg, serious injuries. Unconscious, pretty self-explanatory, you're out like a light. And then dead, you're dead. An important thing to note is that when the game launches, there is no true resurrection. Now, a later book may change that, but at game launch, there is no plans for a return from the dead ability. Once you're dead, that's it. Your stamina refreshes back to full after every tactical pause. A tactical pause is a short 10-minute, we're going to grab some water, we're going to reload, we're going to take a breather, just a real quick pause to regather yourself, reassess, resupply. A long rest is napping for the day. Every long rest and every tactical pause, you heal full stamina back to your max. Every long rest, you only heal one wound. Unless you get medical attention. But naturally, you only heal one wound per day. And those penalties stay as long as you are wounded. Oh, I forgot to say, tactical pause you can do 3 times per day. That's it. Long rest you can do once per day. Okay, no other questions. So, destiny points. Every destiny ability costs a number of destiny points to do. You have a number of destiny points equal to the number of destiny abilities you've purchased. There are some other things like merits that can increase that, but destiny points predominantly based on how many destiny abilities you have. With this character, we've got 1 destiny ability, we have 1 destiny point. So, actions per turn. Actions per turn is equal to your ferocity, minimum 2. You also get 1 reaction in between turns to use because somebody was charging at you, somebody was trying to cast a spell right next to you, things like that. But 4 actions. Now, what is an action? Basically, an action is you doing something. So, if I draw my firearm, fire twice, that's 3 actions. If I draw my firearm, move up to my speed, and fire once, that's 3 actions. If I draw my firearm, kick open the door, and then fire, that's 3 actions. The leader has 4 actions, so they get more to do, but they also have more stuff they can do besides just fire at the enemy. Now, something important to remember. I'll go over this more with another video, but multiple attack penalty exists in the Shattered World. Every time you fire during your turn after the first, you take a stacking -6 penalty. So while shooting or swinging your sword or whatever, attacking, you can do that at character creation. This character can theoretically attack 4 times. You're not going to want to most of the time because your enemy can do things to turn your attacks around. And it becomes much harder because you're just kind of rapid firing, right? You're doing that spray and pray tactic. You're not taking the necessary seconds to control your breathing, to aim, to act right. So, again, another video will go over that more in depth, but Just know that multiple attack penalty exists. So speed. Your speed is 4 squares plus your agility. So this character can move 5 squares per action. Evasions per turn. So again, I'm going to use that Dungeons and Dragons Pathfinder style example because most people tend to know that. In D&D Pathfinder, you have your armor class. If your armor class is 17 and 50 people try to attack you, they have to hit that armor class of 17 to hit you. With you, in the Shattered World, combat is dangerous. It's very easy to get overwhelmed. There's just too much going on in modern combat. So, your evasions per turn is equal to your ranks in evasiveness, minimum 1. This character can attempt to evade 1 attack every turn. Any attack after that against them is an automatic hit. So, what this means, practicality, don't let yourself get surrounded. And keep in mind that that rule also applies to the enemy. You'll automatically hit, you still have to make your check for the purpose of degrees of success, which we will again go over in another video. But let me go ahead and remove that bruised because this character is not going to start bruised. So, we talked about reactions, you get 1 per turn. We talked about evasions, actions per turn, speed, wealth. So, wealth is wealth is what it was originally called when we were designing the game. It's now called salary. So occasionally you'll hear me slip and say wealth, same thing. Salary is an abstract score. We don't use gold pieces. This basically represents how much money you bring in every pay period, every 2 weeks, that you can spend on ammo, new weapons, modifications, outfits, etc. This is your purchasing power. Your salary is equal to your ranks in profession, we don't have any, plus your wealth score increase from your culture and occupation, 4, plus your organization rank, which is 1, so 5 total, and then a bonus from any other merits or other sources. Basically, every 2 weeks, this character is going to get 5 salary. If I have 5 salary, and it's the day before payday, and I don't spend any of it, I still only have 5 salary. What that represents is the day-to-day a bill sprung up. I had to get maintenance on my car. My shoes needed to be repaired, right? The incidental, minor, nickel and dime stuff that we typically don't think about that come up that sap our wealth. So, every 2 weeks, your salary resets back to whatever your max is. Completing missions in the game can increase either temporarily or permanently your salary. Some merits can do the same. Talk with your narrator, and it will happen throughout the game. And that, let me make sure I'm not lying to y'all. All right, so that is it for calculated actions. No other questions. So now we are going to move on to the last step in character creation, buying gear. So, buying gear consists of 2 steps. Step 1 is what you get base, and then you can take your salary for character creation only. You double your salary and spend that to buy your starting gear. For this character, I'm just going to get the basics. We're not going to double the salary wealth. But when you're at home making your own character, our leader with a salary of 5, you would then get 10 salary to buy modifications, to buy rituals, to buy more ammo, to buy more specialized weapons. Ah, I'm sorry, I did forget to do something. Let's go back to skills. When you put your first rank into a hub skill, as I said, you gain one of the appropriate focuses. So with firearms, we know we did not take advanced weaponry. So we took supernatural slayer. So we don't have to put a point into or put a focus into exotic firearms. We do for knowledge need occult. And then, because our knowledge is 4 or higher, we have the synergy bonus, which I will go over that in just a minute. So I lied. We have one more step to do with skills before we do gear. I apologize. So looking through our hub skills, craft, we don't have any ranks. Firearms. Our choices are exotic firearms, things like grenade launchers, flamethrowers, long arms, rifles, shotguns, and small arms, pistols, revolvers, that kind of thing. For this character, with their military job, we're going to go long arms. And again, because they have, ignore that please, because they have more than 5 or 4 or more ranks in firearms, they also gain the synergy bonus. Knowledge, we did. Melee, axes, blunt weapons, things like clubs, baseball bats, staves, that kind of thing. Large blades, hand and a half swords, the quote unquote bastard swords, arming swords, what most people think of when they think long swords, that kind of thing. Small blades, machetes, daggers, that kind of thing. Spear, and unarmed. So this character, we're going to go with small blades. They did a lot of search and rescue, seer training, that kind of thing. So they used a machete a bit to get through underbrush. And they're not experts with it by any stretch of the imagination, but they know which end is sharp. So their melee does not have at least 4 ranks in, so we're not going to give them the synergy bonus. Now, let's look through our skills. Which skills have at least 4 ranks? Empathy has 4 ranks. So, give me one moment. Basically, what a synergy bonus is, as you're training in that skill, it naturally lends itself to another skill. So, for example, with shotguns, because I've spent all this time training with a shotgun, bracing myself against the kickback, learning to breach doors, I naturally became a little more athletic. So, shotguns give a +2 bonus. Because I have at least 4 ranks in shotguns, it would give me a +2 bonus. I don't know why I'm pointing, you can't see that, to athletics. For this character, for our leader, the first one we have is empathy, which is our ability to understand and read others' emotions. Because we're good at that, we have a +2 bonus to persuasion. Our next one up is firearms, and we specifically have the long arms focus. So because of that, we have a bonus to perception. Intimidate is not at least rank 4, so we skip it. We have knowledge, specifically the occult focus. That gives us a +2 bonus to linguistics. And then no other skills have focuses. Or I'm sorry, have synergy bonuses. So now when we're doing our totals, athletics, we have 1 rank, no synergy bonus, no miscellaneous bonus, so our total is 1. Whenever we would make an athletics check, we would roll the appropriate attribute, typically either agility or ferocity, depending on what we're doing, add our total athletics, which is 1, and then roll 2d12. Craft, demolitions, we're going to skip because we have nothing there. Empathy is 4. No other bonuses. So 4. Firearms is 5. Intimidate is 3. Knowledge is Knowledge is 4. Leadership is 4. Linguistics is 2. Melee is again 1. Perception, 2. Performance, we have nothing. And then persuasion, we have 3 ranks, +2 synergy bonus for a total of 5. So, a competent individual will have between 3 and 4 in their total for a skill. So, we're fairly competent and slightly above competent in our firearm usage and our persuasive abilities. We're competent when it comes to scaring people. We're competent on the upper end of competent for knowledge and leadership abilities. Linguistics, we know a thing or two. Melee, we're rookies. Athletics, we're rookies. Empathy, we're better competent at figuring out people's thoughts and desires. So, that is our skill spread. Again, let's go to our gear. Let me check chat real quick. Are there any synergy bonuses stack, or does each skill synergy help with one unique skill? So, no, synergy bonuses stack. For instance, several of the knowledges increase linguistics. If you get synergy bonuses that stack, then they stack. Bonuses, unless otherwise specified, stack. I will go over that a little bit more when we do our mechanics deep dive video. There is a reason, and it ties into the actual dice system that we use. But short answer is most of the synergy bonuses are unique. As the game progresses, there's going to be more synergy bonuses, or as more books come out. let me clarify that. And synergy bonuses do in fact stack. So, good question. Thank you. All right, so buying gear. For this stage, again, we're only going to do the first stage for this because this is a basic character for a convention. You pick one ranged weapon with a wealth score of 8 or less, one melee weapon with a wealth score of 5 or less, and one armor with a wealth score of 4 or less. So for this character, pretty self-explanatory. They have the small blades focus. So for their melee weapon, 5 or less, we're going to look at small blades. Again, I'm going to go over this more in depth in another video, but simple answer when you're looking at the different gear available, specifically for the melee weapons, you're not going to see arming sword. You're not going to see bastard sword. You're not going to see crossbow. You're going to see single edge straight small blade. You're going to see double edge straight small blade. One of the things that always irritated me about games like Dungeons and Dragons, not to call it out, but games like that is they had an enchantment system, right? You could modify your weapons however you wanted at level 5 or higher with a crap load of gold, and the bonuses were typically small, and they typically didn't matter because you had to get a +1 bonus first. And the way the math worked out, that was the important bonus, and anything else was just eh. So with this, if you want a specific weapon, say I really love the idea of a scimitar that looks like the one the Prince of Persia used, right? Or like I really want one of those old Aztec style, I can't even pronounce the name and I'm not going to try because I don't want to slaughter it, but the clubs with the obsidian flakes on the edges, right? You want one of those. What you would do is choose your base weapon and then choose the appropriate modifications to make that weapon your own. And then when the book publishes, it will have examples. All right, do you want a star knife similar to the Desna weapon from Pathfinder? Here are the modifications you do to make that. Here's the base weapon. Here are the modifications you get. Do you want a double barrel shotgun? Here's what you do, that kind of thing. So we're going to start with the small blades first. Our options are dagger, single edge straight, double edge straight, thrusting straight, and single edge curve. Because we already mentioned, in our thought process that they used a machete, we're going to go with single edge straight. And I am going to spell it correctly, I promise. Now, damage. All dagger or all melee weapons have the base trait ferocious. What this means is when I'm using a melee weapon, when I'm using any weapon in the Shattered World, weapons have base damage. It's not a case of, again, the OGL style games where I rolled my hit, now I have to roll 1d6 to see how much damage my dagger does. A single edge straight blade, base, does 2 damage. All melee weapons have the ferocious trait, which means they add your ferocity to the damage. Our ferocity is 4, so our machete will do 6 damage. Now that's a lot. Notice they only have 4 stamina. That's pretty common. Melee weapons are very high risk, high reward. Yes, you can absolutely cap somebody really quick with a melee weapon. Better hope they don't have allies, people who can surround you. Better hope you don't miss, because then you're exposed and wide open to a counterattack. That's the trade-off with melee weapons getting the ferocious trait. So, ranged, the single-age straight is a melee weapon only, so you can attack an adjacent target. Hands required, this is a one-handed weapon. Rate and mag are both NA, not applicable, because that applies to firearms. Slots. Again, I'll go over this more in depth in a different video, but basically slots are for that modification system I was talking about. The more slots a weapon or item has, the more modifications they can have attached to it. So, the single-edged straight has 3 slots. And it cost 3 salary, which we know we had to stick under for our melee weapon 5. So we've done that. No, this does not mean we get 2 salary to spend on another melee weapon. Nice try. So, check chat real quick. Nothing? Cool. And now we get 1 ranged weapon with a wealth score of 8 or less. So, looking back up, we chose for our focus long arms. So let's look at our different long arms, our different rifles. We can pick up a hunting rifle. Hunting rifles have the bonus trait of penetration. When I make the combat video, I'll go more in depth, but again, long story short, rifles, rather than picking a single target, you're going to attack in a straight line. Your rifle will hit the first 2 targets in that line. If one of those 2 targets is an ally, you hit your ally. Friendly fire exists. So, rifles are strong in the sense that you can take down 2 targets at once. They have the drawback that you can potentially take down one of your allies. In the real world, it's an old truism. Don't just know what you're shooting at, know what's behind your target. That applies here as well. So, we're going to choose the hunting rifle. The base damage for a hunting rifle is 4. So again, you can see what I mean about melee weapons doing more damage, but being more risky. The range for a hunting rifle is 11. You can hit from really far away. A hunting rifle takes 2 hands. Rate of fire, semi-automatic. Every time you pull the trigger, every time you spend an action to attack, you send 1 bullet down range. And then magazine is the number of bullets it can hold before you have to reload. So its magazine for a hunting rifle is 15. And reloading takes 1 action to reload the full magazine. So if your weapon has a smaller magazine, for example, a deer rifle does more damage, has more slots, but has a 12 magazine, you would have to reload every 12 shots as opposed to every 15. Its salary cost for the hunting rifle, going back to the rifle we're picking up, salary cost is 6. We had to keep it under 8, so we've succeeded. And it has 4 slots. Armor. Armor comes in 3 types. Outfits, which are exactly what it sounds like, typical day-to-day clothing. They do not provide any armor typically, but they do provide different bonuses. So, a business casual outfit may provide a bonus to any profession checks you have to make. An expensive dress may provide a bonus to any persuasion checks you have to make. Things like that. Light armor and heavy armor are the two types of armor clothing, and they basically do the opposite of one another. Light armor gives you a bonus to evasion. It's much easier for you to move around in that, and you can avoid enemy attacks easier, but it doesn't provide a lot of armor. So when you get hit, you're going to take the full brunt of that hit. Heavy armor is the opposite. It gives you a penalty to evasion, so you're going to get hit more often wearing heavy armor. But it gives you armor, and armor is damage reduction. So if I have an armor rating of 2, every time I take an attack, I'm reducing it by 2. So that's the trade-off. For this character, we know they don't have a lot of endurance anyway. They don't have a lot of stamina anyway. They've got an average amount. In playtesting, first level characters tend to run between 4 and 6. I'm making a tank character, I've seen get up to 9 or 10. But they focused on that and they suffer in other areas. So, for this character, we know they've got the long-range hunting rifle. They've got their machete as a backup that they really don't want to use, but they've got it if needed. They're already sitting back. Let's go ahead and give them light armor. Now, the first light armor is reinforced clothes, and that is exactly what it sounds like. It's basically your standard clothing, only it's got some Kevlar weave mixed in with it. It's got extra padding over your heart and over your vital organs that should slow down most attacks a little bit. But predominantly, you survive by not being where the attack is. So reinforced clothing is light armor. It has 0 armor rating. It has an evasion bonus of +1. And then slots, let me get back to it. It has 3 modification slots. So, because we've got our reinforced clothes on, let's go back to our evasiveness. For miscellaneous bonus, 1. And then total is 1. Keep in mind, your evasions per turn that we talked about is only your ranks in evasiveness. It is not this total score. So, let me look back through. We've got our ranged weapon, we've got our melee weapon, we've got our armor. At this point, with our salary of 5, we would have 10 points to spend getting extra ammo, getting basic whatever gear we want. So, at this point, I've already kept you guys here for, oh God, an hour and 40 minutes. I am so sorry. Thank you, all of you, both of you, for sticking it out. I greatly appreciate it. Before I call this, does anyone have any other questions? Anything I did not cover well? I'm going to give just a minute for you to type anything out. Imagine I'm playing the Jeopardy theme in my head because I am, and I'm not going to hum it out. All right. So, Again, thank you everyone who showed up. This will be posted to both YouTube and Facebook, so you can check it out at a later date. I believe Twitch only keeps these up for 2 weeks, so if it does disappear from Twitch, again, YouTube or Facebook. Facebook.com/MrBites and YouTube at MrBites Gaming 8141. Yeah, thank you everybody, and I hope you have fun.